So our next presenter is Allyra. And Allyra, you can introduce yourself and begin your presentation.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Allyra Macaisa. I'm a Filipino homeschooler based in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And today I'll be talking about the history of fiber arts. I'll be presenting. I'll share my screen. I will start. I'll just reintroduce myself. I am Allyra Macaisa. I am 16 years old and a Filipino homeschooler based in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And today we're going to follow the threads through time. From ancient civilizations to modern innovations, these threads have held together more than just fabric, they've held together communities and traditions. Let's explore how fiber arts have shaped human creativity and culture throughout the ages. Our first stop takes us to the dawn of human civilization. Imagine early humans sitting by a fire weaving together strips of plant fiber to make clothing, baskets, and even shelter. This is weaving, one of the oldest fiber arts. They weren't just surviving, they were creating. Now fast forward thousands of years to an amazing discovery. In 2021, archaeologists in Israel found the oldest woven basket in the world, estimated to be 10,500 years old. The simple yet beautifully crafted basket reminds us how early humans used their hands and creativity to transform fibers into something lasting. Can you imagine how many stories that basket could tell? And with that humble basket, many other countries had their own type of weaving. The Egyptians mastered weaving linen from flax, creating cloth that dressed their kings and even wrapped their mummies. The Incas, high in the Andes Mountains, wove colorful patterns using wool from alpacas and llamas, connecting their culture and beliefs with every thread. Meanwhile, in China, silk became a symbol of wealth and beauty, with intricate woven patterns exported across the world. But weaving wasn't the only fiber art that took off. As humans learned to make fabric, they started decorating it with beautiful designs. This is where embroidery comes in. Imagine hands carefully stitching patterns and images onto garments, turning simple fabric into art. Embroidery started most likely in China, Mesopotamia, and Egypt, and they were adding beauty to everyday life. One of the most iconic examples from China would be Zhujiao embroidery. And picture a piece of silk so finely embroidered that both sides are perfect, and not only are they neat, but two different types of art in just one fabric. There are no seams and no knots, no loose threads, and this double-sided embroidery is a stunning example of the craftsmanship that has been passed down through generations, creating works of art that feel alive, almost as if the birds and that tiger could jump out at you right now. Now let's move to France in the 11th century. To portray their amazing conquest, the Norman conquest, they embroidered this 230 feet tapestry. And every stitch in this masterpiece shows knights, castles, and battles, like a real-life history book made out of thread. Now let's travel to Japan, where the delicate art of kumihimo, a form of braiding, was born. Imagine a skilled artisan sitting at a loom, weaving fine, colorful cords. But these aren't just for decoration. These braids were strong, essential for holding together the armor of the mighty samurai. The samurai, Japan's legendary warriors, depended on these beautifully braided cords to hold together their armor in battle. Each braid represented strength, honor, and the discipline of a warrior. Kumihimu was more than a craft, it was a symbol of the samurai's unwavering spirit. And even though the days of the samurai has passed, Kumihimo lives on today in a different form. Now you'll find these braids woven into jewelry, belts, and fashion accessories. It's a craft that connects ancient traditions with modern creativity. This specific example in my presentation, here, this is two bracelets that I made myself. Instead of using the traditional marudai, which is a wooden circle that they use to braid their cords, I just used a simple cardboard disc that I made myself. And now let's knit our way over to Egypt, where knitting first started. Ancient Egyptians, with their simple tools and skillful hands, created some of the earliest knitting items, textile that would last through the ages. One of the oldest examples of knitting is something that we use every day. Socks. These wool socks, found in Egypt and dating back to the 11th century, shows us that even back then, people were crafting items with comfort and beauty in mind. These socks were designed with a striped pattern, woven for both function and style. Now fast forward to World War I, where knitting became a way for people at home to help soldiers on the front lines. Mothers, wives, and children would knit socks, scarves, and sweaters to send to soldiers, offering them warmth and a connection to home. Knitting wasn't just a hobby, it was a way to make a difference. Next, we dive into the world of macrame, a craft based off knotting fibers into intricate designs. Picture Arab weavers working in the 13th century, using simple knots to finish the edges of their woven fabrics. Macrame was both practical and decorative, adding flair to everyday items. Arab weavers used macrame to keep their fabrics from unraveling, but they didn't stop there. They turned these knots into beautiful, intricate designs, elevating their work from something purely functional to something artistic. And then, centuries later, macrame had a bohemian revival in the 1970s. It became a favorite in home decor. Think plant hangers, wall art, and intricate patterns that decorated homes with a touch of nature. Today, macrame is still going strong, adding vintage charm to modern homes. And today, you can even have people are even selling kits that you can buy and you can do yourself. Next, let's look at tatting, a craft that's all about creating delicate lace from only loops and knots. Picture a woman in the Victorian era, sitting by a candlelight, making tiny designs to decorate clothing, tablecloths, and even curtains. There are two types of tatting, needle tatting and shuttle tatting. Needle tatting would be making these loops and knots using a needle. While shuttle tatting, it would be using a shuttle, which what I have right now. Can you see? This shuttle here. It's the same loops and knots, just using different tools. Tatting was the height of elegance in Victorian England. Imagine the patience and skill it took to make these intricate lace collars and cuffs, each knot carefully placed to form beautiful lace-like patterns. The examples here are so pretty that I even just added it as part of decoration for my presentation. And today, tatting is still practiced by some fiber artists, including me, though it's not as common as it once was. It used to be almost a lost and dying art. But because of modern artists who have learned it from their who have learned it from generation to generation, they figured to pass it to other people using the internet. And that's how I found it. Modern tatting blends traditional techniques with contemporary designs. And this pattern right here is just these are examples that I actually made just from flowers and a lace. These were my first two projects. And thankfully, with the internet, this art has been kept alive, as well as other arts that have been lost. And speaking of which, crochet is now the most famous fiber art, in my opinion, because I see it everywhere. And why it became famous? The internet. And crochet is another fiber art, even though it's popular today, it was also been popular for centuries. Using just a single hook, artisans create loops of yarn that transform into blankets, clothing, and decorative items. It's a craft that first became popular in the 19th century. The origin of this isn't very clear because there wasn't much actual evidence, as arts that would have been made back then would have disintegrated by now. So, and only in the 19th century did they start making books to share with the world. And just like knitting, crochet played a part in World War II. Families crocheted blankets, hats, and scarves to send to soldiers, offering them both warmth and comfort. Crochet brought people together in a time of hardship, turning simple yarn into something meaningful. These two examples are made with the same stitches that I use. For the trench cap, this is made from single crochets, and for the ear protection, these are made from what I think are half double crochets. Now today, crochet has taken a playful turn. The Japanese art of amigurumi, creating small crocheted stuffed animals, has brought new life to this age-old craft. People around the world crochet cute, colorful characters that bring joy to both children and adults. These two examples are actually two of my latest creations. Crochet is actually my favorite and most mastered fiber art among all of the ones I've learned. Now let's talk about cross-stitching, another form of embroidery that uses tiny cross-shaped stitches to create detailed patterns. This craft became especially popular in Europe, where girls would make samplers to showcase their skills. Imagine a young girl in the 16th century working on a sampler that would become a family heirloom. Each stitch was a lesson in patience and precision, and these samplers were often passed down to generations, preserving the skills and stories of the woman who made them. Cross-stitching is still a popular hobby today. People create intricate designs for home decor, gifts, and even art pieces. It's a craft that's easy to learn, but offers endless possibilities for creativity. One of the examples is actually this example is actually my second attempt at cross-stitching. At first, I thought cross-stitching would just be making one pixel to another, but it would be easier to just do it row by row, like pixel art. This is basically the ancient version of pixel art. And now let's talk about Tunisian crochet, which blends the techniques of both knitting and crochet. You know how knitting takes two needles and crochet uses a hook? For Tunisian crochet, it uses one long hook. And this craft creates a thicker and more textured fabric compared to knitting and crochet alone, which makes it perfect for blankets and scarves. And Okay, and Tunisian crochet was also called Afghan crochet, as it's first started in North Africa. Elegant ladies would and spread to Victorian Europe. And ladies would be sitting by a fire and creating these beautiful fabrics that adorned their homes. Though Tunisian crochet fell out of the spotlight in the 20th century, it never truly disappeared. Today, it enjoys a revival as crafters from around the world, including me, would pick up their long hooks and continue this ancient tradition, weaving history and creativity into every stitch. And now latch hooking. Latch hooking was developed in the 19th century Europe as a method of making rugs. In the 1830s, the rich could buy machine-made carpets, while the poor recycled yarn and fabric strips into hooked rugs, which is why this was once called the poor man's craft. And now, latch hooking still remains a fun, accessible craft for people of all ages because it's simple and easy to do. And so, we've come full circle, threads through time, weaving together the past and the present. Fiber arts began as a necessity, but have evolved into a beautiful form of creative expression, a way to innovate, and a connection to our cultural heritage. Learning and practicing fiber arts is not just about creating beautiful things, it's also about preserving culture. These crafts are a window into the traditions of the past, and by learning them, we keep those traditions alive. Fiber arts are also a powerful form of creative expression and innovation. Today, artists are still finding new ways to blend ancient techniques with modern design, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And beyond creativity, fiber arts offer significant educational value. They teach us patience, problem solving, and fine motor skills, making them lifelong learning tools. These crafts also help us connect with ourselves and the world around us, reminding us that something as simple as a piece of thread can make something lasting. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the fascinating world of fiber arts. I hope you've been inspired to explore these crafts yourself and help continue the story they've been telling for thousands of years.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this amazing research and share so many information with us. And I learned quite a lot about the lattice. Thank you very much, Lace. I'm sorry. And Gia just sent message that it's time for her to end his hosting session. Thank you very much, Gia.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So
Thank
nice to
you.
have you. And Anand, would you like to ask a simple question because we are a little bit behind the time?
Oh, no problem. This is a very broad subject. Every country has its own set of embroideries which has been starting. So I just shared a note with Allyra, which she could read it when she has the time on our personal chat. So that way she can add more inputs to the whole thing that she's been covering. Thanks, Allyra. And I think I don't want to have any questions out here because this is more related to the world of art and which is an ever expanding thing, and new things keep coming up in this.
Thank you so much.
And thank you very much for sharing that. And I do hope that maybe next time you can share us more what you discovered, or what would you like to create it based on your current study and research. I think that would be even more exciting. Or do you have any plan to create something more?
Yes, I've been actually planning to make a whole book about these fiber arts because the books I've read about the history of these fiber arts are all quite outdated and they don't have much evidence to support their claims because the artifacts that archaeologists have found now are quite recent and they didn't have it in the books back then. So I plan to make a a book or a thesis on this topic.
Wow, quite looking forward to that. And I think that fabric arts, and maybe you would like to explore more fabrics in different countries and at different historic times. That would be really interesting. And thank you very much for joining us. And since our next presenter, Anuj, is here, and thank you very much again, Allyra, and we're going to move to our next presenter, Anuj.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so honored to have you. Thank you.